So I'm not sure how many of you all have accounts with RBC. Does anybody, can I just, no shame. If you have an account with RBC, can you put your hands up real quick? All right, so I'm gonna ask you all to close those accounts. RBC is the primary investor in this project through TCL, through TransCanada, and we need to go there, close our accounts, TC Energy, yeah. So we need to go there, close our accounts, and tell them why. Because this is what they listen to. Corporations only listen to money, and if they see it as a liability, they see people closing their accounts on account of this, who knows, maybe they'll pull out their investments, and that would be a really good thing, right? So let's do a little chant on that. Close all accounts with RBC. Respect Indigenous sovereignty. Close all accounts with RBC. Respect Indigenous sovereignty. Close all accounts with RBC. Respect Indigenous sovereignty. Close all accounts with RBC.
Respect Indigenous sovereignty.
Close all accounts with RBC.
Respect Indigenous sovereignty.
All right. And so we're going to do another one now. And this is like in the spirit of reconciliation, non-reconciliation. This is about the fact that we respect and support the Wet'suwet'en Nation in their sovereignty, and that what's happening right now is not reconciliation, right? So this one goes like this. We support the Wet'suwet'en Nation. This is not reconciliation. We support the Wet'suwet'en Nation.
This is not reconciliation.
We support the Wet'suwet'en Nation.
This is not reconciliation.
We support the Wet'suwet'en Nation.
This is not reconciliation.
We support the Wet'suwet'en Nation.
This is not reconciliation.
We support the Wet'suwet'en Nation.
This is not reconciliation.
All right. How y'all feeling? So up next, I'm going to bring up Judy Haiven, who's from Independent Jewish Voices, to say a few words of solidarity. Judy, you around? There's Judy. All right, make some noise, y'all.
Hi, I'm from Independent Jewish Voices. We stand firm for the uncompromising solidarity with the people and the hereditary chiefs of the Wet'suwet'en Nation in their struggle to defend their land against the Coastal GasLink and other pipeline companies which have encroached on their sovereign territory. As a national Jewish organization that fights for a just peace in Israel-Palestine, we raise our voices to support Palestinians who bravely defend their olive groves, their valleys and water resources against Israeli settlers and other forms of land confiscation. In much the same way, we also raise our voices to support Indigenous peoples who are fighting to protect their waters, their lands, that we all share here on Turtle Island. The Wet'suwet'en have shown how the pipelines on their lands will threaten their trap lines, their animals in the region, and the pristine Morris River, which is an important source of fresh drinking water and salmon. More pipelines mean more deforestation, more fracking, more fossil fuel production, and more carbon emission. Shame. In the Jewish spirit of Tikkun Olam, which is Hebrew for repairing the world, we give our full support to Indigenous peoples who are acting to repair the very ground on which we walk. And the only way forward is if we walk together, united against colonialism.
Thank you, Judy. All right. And up next, I'm going to bring up Tanette. Tanette's been doing a lot of organizing within the religious communities in Halifax, getting people of faith on board with this struggle. So make some noise for Tanette.
Hi there. I was invited to speak today on the Tech Frontier Mining Project. How many people have heard of the Tech Frontier Project? Okay, good. How many people had heard about the project before December? A few. Okay. Well, don't be shy if you hadn't heard about it. A lot of us who've been keeping our ear to the ground in terms of environmental issues, environmental justice, hadn't heard about it, and it was a little bit like being surprised by the delisting of Owl's Head. All of a sudden, the proposed Tech Frontier Tar Sands project is actually the largest tar sands project in the world. So if it gets through, it's a game changer, obviously, and it's a little shocking that it hadn't been part of a more public conversation. It was just all of a sudden the deadline was looming for approval, and actually it will be decided by Thursday of this week. Okay. So it'll be decided by Cabinet by Thursday, and so I hope people are just kind of poised to react if it does get approval, and if it doesn't, that would signal some hope, which we could all use right now. And I also just want to emphasize that I think these issues are all interrelated. The tar sands already in Alberta, northern Alberta, have devastated the land, the water, the air of northern Alberta, and the people who are paying the biggest toll are Indigenous peoples, and they're suffering from very high rates of cancer, rare cancers. Their babies are being born with rare birth defects. This is so that we can dig up oil from the tar sands and ship it wherever. It's not okay, right? We know that. Yeah. The tar sands is also it's the fastest growing carbon emissions in Canada, and Canada is already warming at twice the global rate of any other nation, and we have a lot of Arctic ice that we need to preserve. So let's just keep an ear to the ground about that, and remember that this is all these issues are all related, and so we need to be ready to support one another in the various causes and issues that are continually being thrown into the arena. Thank you.
Thanks, Tanette. And yes, the Tech Mine, as well, the Trans Mountain Pipeline, which seeks to transport a lot of tar sands, bitumen, despite resistance from First Nations communities. We all need to be united against all of these projects. And I think that the right to say no is key. Because of something so intuitive as free, prior, and informed consent, if communities had the ability to say no to what happened in their territory, we wouldn't be in the position that we are today. But as far as the Canadian government is concerned, even though you'll hear all of their eloquent platitudes about signing on to the UN Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous People and wanting to make that law, veto is never on the table. Which means that even if communities, are amenable to a certain project, they have no power in negotiations because no is unacceptable. And we just heard a court last week when Sebekadekity was up against the Alton Gas Project in the province, and the province was trying to argue that they weren't, they just abruptly stopped consultations because they just presumed that Sebekadekity was against the project, and therefore, they couldn't believe that they would engage in good faith. Where? Consent needs to mean the right to say no, and no should be accepted. So I'm going to have a quick chant here. Consent means the right to say no. The RCMP has got to go. Consent means the right to say no. The RCMP has got to go. Consent means the right to say no. The RCMP has got to go.
Consent means the right to say no. The RCMP has got to go.
And let's extend that one to the resource company itself. So consent means the right to say no. CGL has got to go.
Consent means the right to say no. CGL has got to go. Consent means the right to say no. CGL has got to go.
We're just warming you up. We're going to march soon. So, go practice a chance. We're going to be ready pretty soon. I also wanted to address, real quick, all of the fear-mongering that's been going on. And these false narratives that have been put out both by Prime Minister Trudeau and just the media generally. Yeah, we hear that, settler cities are going to run out of clean water or going to run out of chlorine for clean water, even though Indigenous communities have been without clean water for decades. But that hasn't happened because we all know that you can transport things by trucks, right? Yeah, and all these other ways, which certainly we would do if our chlorine was at stake. And we're even hearing that our shelves are going to go empty. But no one here has seen our shelves go empty, right? And so when Justin Trudeau talks about how we are tired of being inconvenienced, we haven't even been inconvenienced yet. Right? It's economic disruption, certainly. Something in the social justice toolbox since the origin of organized labor, right? So it's economic disruption, certainly. But is it impacting the working class? Is it impacting ordinary people to the point where any comparison to terrorism is at all appropriate? Of course not. Of course not. It just means people have to spend a bit more money to make a lot more money, because we all know income inequality is going crazy in this country. And also the layoffs for CN, they were announced in November, right? And so what CN is trying to do is they're trying to pit the working class against other struggles for justice, right? And they're not owning their own layoffs, even though the fact is that they made over $4.2 billion in profit in 2019. Yeah, so they're blaming a cause for Indigenous sovereignty for their layoffs that they should take responsibility for. They should be taking better care of their workers. Okay, I just wanted to address those things. You all came out despite the fear-mongering, despite everyone's attempt to divide people that are standing for what should be basic human and community rights. And we are here because despite the threats of violence and force, we know that the future is Indigenous sovereignty, is environmental justice, right? We need to disrupt business as usual. We need to disrupt the way things are operating because it is putting us on a crash course to climate catastrophe. Now, I want to bring up, I've been a little angry, I had a lot to say. Just feeling it. But this is also, a day where we're coming together for beauty as well. It's beautiful to see all out here. Really powerful when we come together despite what the dominant media narrative is. And I want to bring up Deirdre. And she's going to lead us in some song. And yeah, sure. And she needs some help on the chorus. So we passed out these song and chant sheets, right? It's on the opposite of the chant sheet. And so the chorus is, they said no, they said it in your language. Why don't you understand? Just listen to the land. And hopefully Deirdre will sing it for us. I'm too embarrassed to sing in front of everybody. Yeah, so Deirdre will bring us through the chorus and the refrain, but then Deirdre has a couple different verses, one that she wrote specifically for Alton Gas, and then of course the original was written by Betty Supple, and that was actually written for the Unistoten and Wet'suwet'en Nation. So it's a beautiful song, and I hope you all can sing along. The only thing is I can hold it for you. Okay. Hi everyone. Can everybody hear me okay? All right, so we're just gonna go over the chorus real quick so you know the melody. Take a deep breath. I'm really sick, so I'm kind of... Dayquil is why I'm here standing up right now. Goes like this, yeah. They said no, they said it in your language. Well, don't you understand? Just listen to the land. What about your grandchildren? What are you gonna tell them when they ask you, what have you done? Tell me, what have you done? So that's the chorus. Thank you, Saku. I said it quietly, but I felt like I could say that into the mic. Thank you. Well then. All right, here we go. I met some people on the road, headed for the big city, traveling through their territory. They brought their drums. They brought a message, spoken from their hearts, singing songs of the people, songs of the land. And their voices were loud and clear. Yeah, their voices were strong and fierce with love. But in case you didn't hear them, in case you weren't listening, they said no. They said it in your language. Well, don't you understand? Just listen to the land. What about your grandchildren? What are you gonna tell them when they ask you, what have you done? Tell me, what have you done? Ooh, ooh. This is a brand new verse, folks. This is happening everywhere. But so it tend to make Margie. They want us to go away quietly, but we're gonna fight because we are rising, because we hear the ancestors, because we love our children, because we know what is right. And may our voices be loud and clear. Yeah. May our voices be strong and fierce with love. And in case you didn't hear us, in case you weren't listening, we say no. We said it in your language, but don't you understand? Just listen to the land. What about your grandchildren? What are you gonna tell them when they ask you, what have you done? Tell me, we say no. We say it in your language. What don't you understand? Just listen to the land. Thank you. ready to march. Now, we have our crew, our Mi'kmaq crew right here with their banner that reads, "Unseated and Unconquered." Right? Because that's something that we share in common with Wet'suwet'en territory. This is unceded Mi'kma'ki. And, you know, we just learned that the premier knew about a plan to basically argue that the Mi'kmaq don't even have the right to be consulted because they're conquered. But we know we have strong Mi'kmaq matriarchs fighting for the land. The Mi'kmaq are very strong on this unceded territory. Once again, Coastal Gas, Alton Gas, both these projects shall not pass. Can we do that one real quick for the Mi'kmaq? Coastal Gas,
Alton Gas, both these projects shall not pass. Coastal Gas, Alton Gas, both these projects shall not pass. Coastal Gas, Alton Gas, both these projects shall not pass.